What is going on, y'all? I'm here to talk about Ursaluna and the buffs and changes I've made for them. So I promise I'll give context for why I swapped out Guts and Bulletproof. I will give you an explanation in just a second, so stay tuned for the end of the video. But before I can get into explaining the ability choices, the stat tweaks, and most importantly, all of the crazy new moves that they get access to, I highly recommend you pause the video and read the description. Also, before I get into my little intro spiel, I am going to show the Ursa Ring, which has their own video you can check out after this one, where I've explained the changes here. The main difference between Ursa Ring and its evolutions is that Ursa Ring is by far the fastest with quick feet and 75 base speed, and it's also pure normal, while the others are normal ground and dark ground specifically. Those are the main differences, not to mention Intimidate versus Battle Armor and other stuff. And I'll compare them a bit more in a bit. But yeah, this is Ursaluna Blood Moon. They will have their own video explaining their changes and all of my thought process behind that. So stay tuned for that. It'll be after this video. Make sure you don't click off the video now though, because it'll mess up the watch time. With all that out of the way, I can give you the little intro spiel if you're new here. I appreciate you clicking on the video. Make sure you read the description. It's got bullet points explaining my thought process behind balancing the ROM hack, and it's got a Google Sheet link which you can check out when you're done with the video. You can look at the move guide where I've organized every single move, buff, and change. They're very, very important to understand how the game functions because moves are like the foundation of how Pokemon plays. So yeah, Ursaluna. So Guts is in an in-game context a worse ability than Brute Force, unless the Pokemon is very fast, and even then Brute Force is still kind of better, because the thing with Brute Force is it doesn't require an item slot. Obviously, it locks you in. So first of all, the reason I did this is because I wanted to differentiate them more from Ursa Ring, which has Guts, and yeah, I just think Brute Force is definitely a lot better. Because, for example, you can run Choice Scarf Brute Force or Quick Claw Brute Force. Quick Claw is now a single-use consumable, a guaranteed trigger item. So that's like a kind of like a Custat Berry, but without any requirement. You can also use Custat Berry as well because of item clause. You could totally use both for one boss fight. But yeah, point being, Brute Force is it's the same boost as Guts. Obviously, it doesn't boost your Facade, but this isn't like. It's not like competitive, right? Where like you have this wall breaker who does his thing. It's like in game you can outspeed things a lot easier or run like a more defensive item with Brute Force. You can run an Assault Vest, you can run any item. Meanwhile, Guts will always take up your item slot, which is a lot worse. So that's why I swapped it out. It's just a better ability, and I think it's cool as hell for Ursaluna. So if you go to their, the lore and stuff. So the reason I swapped out Bulletproof for Thick Fat and Battle Armor. So Battle Armor is a really good ability in this ROM hack. It's a great ability for nuzlockes in general, but especially in a ROM hack that's balanced in the way that this one is, it's really nice. Not to mention there's like a lot of crit moves that you completely nullify the damage from. All of these moves will never crit you. All of these moves will never crit you, and they deal a lot less damage that way. I mean, it's tons of moves, right? So that's really useful. But even just being safe, right? Especially on such a bulky Pokemon. It's just always nice to have that. Not to mention like bulk up Battle Armor is pretty good, stuff like that, right? So that's always really good. And then Thick Fat I chose flavor-wise because I was between Thick Fat and Water Absorb. Water Absorb is kind of cool because peat, if you guys don't know, the moss, like the mold, not moss, it's like dirt basically that covers Ursaluna. There's like science behind peat that I don't need to get into, but all you need to know is that it's very absorbent of water. So I was considering Water Absorb, but Thick Fat's also cool. It's like the Sicilian guy. So I think him being resistant to the cold makes a lot of sense. And then also, getting a fire resist on a normal ground type is cool, especially because normal ground is actually not that good defensively. It only has 2 resists. It does have 2 immunities, so I'm definitely exaggerating a bit. It's still good. 2 immunities. And now it has 4, it loses one of its weaknesses, and it gets 3 resists now. So yeah, being a ground type that resists fire is really, really cool. So I think that is nice. You can always switch to that because you're not always going to need the boosting from Brute Force, right? Because you already have a very good 140 base attack, you have lots of high base power moves, lots of strong coverage moves. So it's always good to have that option to switch for either a new resist or neutrality or that utility of Battle Armor. I would say you might be using those more than Brute Force sometimes just because Brute Force can be overkill, but it's still obviously a very good ability. Not to mention Choice Scarf with base 60 speed, while not nearly as fast as Quick Feet 75 base speed Ursa Ring, is much faster than Blood Moon Ursaluna. So Blood Moon is a dark type with it's a mixed attacker and has its own unique, really cool things that I'll get into in their video. Also, I need to delete this Lunar Dance disclaimer, right? Because I took away Lunar Dance from them. Oh god, the fucking format got messed up. Yeah, give me 1 second, guys. Just gotta fix this up. Just drag this down a little bit. So, yeah, no more Lunar Dance. That's going to be an AI-only move. Something like maybe Kieran or something will abuse that against you, which is fun. But yeah, As for why Bulletproof is removed, so Bulletproof is heavily buffed in this ROM hack. There are 55-ish new moves that work with Bulletproof, and flavor-wise, I don't see a little bit of fucking Pete covering. Like, for example, Pokemon that I've chosen to give Bulletproof are like Tyranitar, Cloyster, Bastiodon, you know, shit like that, right? Where like they're very clearly like heavily armored, defensive Pokemon. Obviously, Ursaluna is very tanky, which is why I gave them battle armor. I can see the Pete protecting them from crits and stuff, and you know it's like hard and super hard Pete, but there's no fucking way that Ursaluna makes any sense to be immune to. Look at the list of moves, man. I'll just show it. It'll make more sense. So if you look on screen, all of these moves you see on screen, dude, there's no fucking way that he's immune to all of these. It just makes no sense. So, yeah, and also it's a bit broken. I don't really like, because also if I give them Bulletproof, it makes them by far like the best of the three, because being immune to that many moves is just so fucking powerful. Like there's very little reason to use the other two at that point. Obviously there still is reasoning. It doesn't make them completely useless, but it's just, it kind of makes it a little bit more unfair for which of the three is the best. And I like to balance the three, you know, Ursaring and both Ursalunas to be all viable around one another. So it's really up to personal preference and your playstyle and your teammates in a Teamlocked nuzlocke. That'll determine which one you want to pick. Also maybe the point in the game you're at. So stuff like that is definitely important. But yeah, that's why I know Bulletproof. Just flavor-wise, I don't think it makes any sense anymore. You know, in vanilla, when it's only like fucking 10 moves that fit with Bulletproof, and then it's like, sure. But with all of the new moves, I just don't see it anymore. And Thick Fat's cool anyways. I like it a lot. Normally, I'm kind of a hater of Thick Fat, but I think on a normal ground type, a bulky normal ground type specifically, especially because there's not a third ability slot that I really want instead. You know, so I was like, you know, I may as well throw on Thick Fat. I think it's actually pretty cool here. Not to mention that resisting fire, neutral to ice is just cool. And it fits them a lot, so. Yeah, Brute Force is very strong. So 60 base speed with Choice Scarf, like I said earlier, isn't nearly as fast. Isn't nearly as fast as... Let me just get the speed up. Isn't nearly as fast as Ursaring. Ursaring with a quick feet and a neutral speed nature is outspeeding base 112, while Ursaluna with a Choice Scarf and a neutral speed nature is hitting 312 speed, which is probably like what, base 90-ish if I had to guess. 95. Let's see. Yeah, 92 and below. So significantly, you know, almost 20 base speed points slower with a, you know, 112 versus 92. So you're almost 20 speed lower than Quick Feet Ursaring, but it's still very good. Not to mention if you get a plus speed Ursaring, and you want to evolve at level 45 into, you know, regular Ursaluna, then that plus speed nature with Brute Force goes crazy, because now you're hitting 342, so you're much faster. Now you're hitting like 105, 106 base speed. Yeah, 105, which is really fast. But even then, Ursaring is still much faster, right? Like Quick Feet Ursaring with a plus speed nature is hitting, you know, like 128 base speed. So regardless, Ursaring is always going to be the fastest of the three, but Ursaluna is obviously bulkier naturally without having to hold a Violite. It does lose Intimidate, but it trades that for Battle Armor, which is a very fair trade. I would prefer Battle Armor personally in a Nuzlocke. But obviously Intimidate's great, so it's really up to your personal preference. Also, Parting Shot. I didn't cover this in another Ursaring video, but Parting Shot is a cool... I'm very limited with what I give Parting Shot nowadays in Scrambled Scarlet compared to Sweltering Sun, but I figured these guys are like, you know, super big asshole bears. I think it makes sense for them. And Intimidate Parting Shot is great on Ursaring, and then Ursaluna, both of them can abuse Battle Armor Parting Shot, which is also very good in its own right, because you don't have to risk any crits, so you can keep switching in and out guaranteed, which is just really good. It's not too much else to talk about, honestly. You know, Headlong Rush is obviously great. You've got Brutal Swing, which is Dark type Double Edge. You've got Actual Double Edge. You've got, you know, Sucker Punch, First Impression, all this like little priority things you could take advantage of. Befuddle even. Tons and tons of powerful coverage moves that you can see on screen, which honestly I don't want to waste time covering every single one of these, because it's just not a good way to spend my time. Obviously Slack Off is good with like Battle Armor bulk up stuff, or just Slack Off bulky in general with like Battle Cry, for example. Battle Cry drops attack and special attack by -2, so with Battle Armor that's always incredible. It just means that you know, it only has 2 PP, but it's still incredible. You can still cripple 2 Pokemon and not have to worry about getting crit through that drop. You can even do some poison stally stuff with Acid Reflux and, you know, Trailblaze to boost your speed. All types of little fun things you can experiment with on Ursaluna. Really up to your personal preference. Hold on, I got a email notification I got to check out of this video. I think I've covered pretty much everything anyway, to be honest. There's you know, some smaller things like lots of coverage and other important small things that you can check out for yourself on the move guide. You know, the power of the coverage moves, the unique effects of a lot of these moves. So if you made it to the end of the video, I very much appreciate that. Seriously, it does mean a lot. So leave a comment down below if you did make it to this point, and I'll be back for more coming up, y'all. Peace.